Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Zoe's Treasures. Let me get this. There we go. Hello, Southern Charm. Hello, Wheezy. Y'all, how are you doing? I am still in Houston, as you can see, still in the hotel room, but look, I have my coffee today, so all is good in life because I have my coffee. They finally fixed my M Club access, so I was able to get in early this morning. Good morning. And not only did I get one cup, I went down and got myself 2 cups because I'm like, I know this is what I'm going to need. So what is going on? Let's see. I'm still in Houston. Been working all week. I'm absolutely exhausted. We get up at about 5:30 for, about 5:30 every morning, and we go until about 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it has been nonstop since Tuesday when I left. So I am exhausted. But we're going to do this. And it's going to be a good show today. So coming up, let's just talk about some upcoming stuff really quick. Tomorrow, we are doing the Warm Embrace collection. So it's going to be the first show where we do the Warm Embrace collection, which is like, think of like a nice big hug, wood tones, earthy colors, neutrals. That's what we're going to be showing tomorrow. So I'm really excited about that. I've got a ton of stuff. And then we're going right back into our Monday morning chat on Monday. But you know what we don't have coming up anytime soon? Well, the next one is a new Sellers Ray Train coming up at the last week of the month. But I am not on any Ray Trains coming up in the near future. I'm pulling away a little bit from doing so many Ray Trains. Still love them, still not against them in any way, shape, or form. I'm just not doing them as often as I was before. I'm kind of just really getting laser focused on other areas of my business right now. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. But I do want to remind, you know what, let me do a giveaway. Hold on, let me take this off the screen and we'll do a giveaway. Giveaways throughout the whole day are 2 postcards and a rewards card. So that's what's going to be running throughout the morning if you are interested in that.
Good morning, I love discounts.
Good morning, I love discounts. Look at Lysandra, I have coffee already, so not as animated. All right. What we're going to be talking about today is
No drama today.
No drama today. It's been a good day. All right. We are talking about going from a reseller mindset to a CEO mindset. That's going to be about our first hour. There is a definite difference in the way that you think. And I've written a lot of my notes to be just like examples that we could talk about. And then for the tax topic, we're talking about business versus hobby income. Last week, we talked a lot about intent and consistency. So this week, it's kind of building on that. And we'll go through actually what does the IRS say? I know we did a show on this, I don't know, 4 months ago or so on it, but there's a lot of new people, so we'll refresh it. Good morning, Crafty Fairies. But before we even go into that, I know most of you have already heard about our reselling roundtable, which is the podcast that Zoe's Treasures is combining forces with I Love Discounts and Green 13. And we're going to be doing that podcast. The first one, hello, Mary. The first podcast is September, January 25th. Why in the world did I say September? Yes, thank you. I love discounts. So January 25th, it's a Sunday. I think we decided on 6:30 p.m. So kind of mark that down. You can go to the YouTube channel, you can subscribe. There's probably a way to get notifications. I don't know. Somebody smarter than me can tell you all about that side of it. But I just want to make sure that you guys are aware of it. We kind of came up with a few topics to start talking about. Let's see. It didn't. That's right. The years fly by. It goes so fast. I cannot believe we're already into January. See, part of the problem is for my job, I'm always working on things that are like 10 or 11 months down the road. Like I'm already talking about stuff at the end of the year. So when I sit here, I'm like, no, it's today. It's not like October or September already. The live stream is up for you. Oh, okay. Thank you, my love, for putting that in there. So that's a big thing. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot. But if you guys have questions throughout the morning, please put them in there. It's so much. so much nicer to like take a break, talk about your questions. If I can't answer them, there's always somebody in the chat who can. So feel free to talk to each other or help answer questions in the chat. I am not against that whatsoever, because I fully admit that I do not know everything, and I can even be wrong sometimes. Imagine that. It happens. Um, where's your coffee? Where's my coffee? You should have got me coffee. Never mind that you're in a completely different state. You guys, it has been so hot here. So freaking hot. Like, it does not feel like winter whatsoever. I just feel for all of you that live in Texas. Like, I just feel for you. Wait, she can be. All right. You know what? Save your comments, mister, until Monday. Today's my show. All right. So you guys, good morning, CG Boomerang. We did I talk about it? I didn't even talk about it. I'm glad I saw your name. I know you pop in here to remind me. So thank you. You guys, Big Kahuna is very trained. If you see CG Boomerang Echo in there, her and I are co-hosting, co-conducting the Big Kahuna's Ray Train. This is a good one. This is like the top dogs, the big guys and girls of Whatnot. Sellers, let's just call everybody sellers of Whatnot. 20K sales, 20K sales, 15K followers, at least a 4.8 rating. So all the good stuff. These are the ones that are selling a lot, have a lot of people following them, know what they're doing, have a good rating. And they're going to be competing in 20-minute section, 20-minute time frames, to see who is the Big Kahuna of Whatnot, who is going to be the reigning champion, who's going to carry that title month over month. And it's not a one and done. Whoever wins gets to come back to defend their title the next month. And then the best part about this is we're going to have like a voting feature where you guys can get involved once we post that list, and say who you think. You can go on the website, go on CG's website and vote on who you think is going to win that evening. And then there'll be a private party at the end for people to get invited to. It's going to be an invite only party. Where there's going to be giveaways and stuff. So more details will be like, as each week goes by, we'll give a lot more details. Southern Charm, you got that first giveaway. Congratulations. But that's like the big gist of it. Really excited about that. And just, I think it's going to be fun because like, just think about once you're like the champion and you want to hold on to that title. So I think it's going to be a good one. There's also points for having, they get points, but part of the point system is how many raids they get of at least 10 people. So it's really like, it's not just the seller. It really takes the chat and the community to make the show. So it's going to be a good one. It's not all one-sided. It's really like a really well-rounded type of raid trade. Oh, what didn't you, Red Chat? I love discounts. Oh my goodness. All right. We're off to a great start this morning. Okay. What else are we going to talk about? Let's just jump right into our topics. So going from a reseller mindset to a CEO mindset. So I've got a few different like key points about that on kind of what constitutes that. And I really try to do a lot of this in an example based, just so I'd rather do examples than just like talk. So the first key point on here is CEO's plan. Now I know you're like, oh, resellers plan too, but CEOs really plan. CEOs are strategic. And all of us need to think the minute, we all start out as a reseller, right? We're all like, oh, I've got something, I'm going to share it. I'm going to, sell this item, I'll take some pictures, I'm going to sell it, whether it's on a static listing type site or whether it's live selling on Whatnot or another live selling type platform. So going from one to the other is really a mindset shift, because now we're talking strategy. We're not talking, I'm just going to see how this works, I'm just going to do this, I'm going to try that. We're really talking about planned out, thoughtful way that you are moving step by step by step through your business. And that can be a little overwhelming to some people. Some people are like, look, that's way too much. I didn't go into the corporate world because I didn't want to have to do all that stuff. But guess what? You own a business. You are the CEO of your business, that chief executive officer of your Whatnot business. So how do we make that, whether you like it or not, how do you use that to your advantage? Let's just acknowledge that's what you are. And now let's figure out, what do we do to make this the best thing that we can make it, right? First thing we do is resellers do a lot of reacting. We will come in, we'll have a show, and then we'll be like, oh man, I don't know what to do. That show didn't go the way I wanted, or somebody says something, or you see a trend and you're like, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to jump on this bandwagon. It's a lot of reacting. Where CEOs, it's a strategic plan. There is a plan in place and they're just plotting along down a road. So that's a huge difference between the two. And we're going to talk about that thought process and going from one to the other. So it's really moving from a haphazard type process to a strategic process. So what does that look like in real life? Well, let me get another giveaway started. Sorry. What does that look like in real life? So some of the examples I came up with are resellers say, I'm going to go live when I have time. So they just kind of, hope people will pop into their show. They're like, oh, the kids are in school on Friday, so I'll try Friday, and maybe I'll try Tuesday. I don't know, maybe I'll do this day. There's no real plan there. They just when I have time. Oh, I feel like going shopping today. I had a show at 9, but I feel like going shopping. I'll just push it to 4. That's kind of a reseller mindset. Whereas a CEO mindset is my shows are scheduled. It's a business commitment that I have made to my customers. I'm going on every Saturday at 4 o'clock because that is a business commitment I have made to my customers. It's it's having that anchor show. We talked about an anchor show last week, having that at least one show that people can count on at the same day, same time, same channel, right? Every single week. It's giving your shows intentional names, intentional sourcing, intentional creation of the items that you're putting into the show. You have to look at it, a CEO looks at it, this is a job that they own. For those of you that work, a typical 9 to 5, well, you're welcome, Taco Cat Lady. For those of us that work a 9 to 5, I can't call my boss at 8 o'clock in the morning and be like, yeah, we have a meeting at 9, but the thrift stores, like, they're opening at 9. I'm going to run over there instead. No, I've got to be there. I have to log on to my computer at 9 o'clock. And it's the same thing with Whatnot. We need to be that laser focused in on what we're doing. Now, the beauty of Whatnot, not me moving my show 4 minutes after we were, yeah, no, I love discounts. I'm not going to name names. So the, see, that's how easy it is to make me lose my train of thought. The beauty of Whatnot and the beauty of working for ourselves, and I heard another seller talking about this, is yeah, but that's part of what's so great about Whatnot is you can do it when you want to do it. You can. Look, I'm not saying you can't do it when you want to do it, but don't expect the growth to be as consistent as if you're not as consistent, your growth is not going to be as consistent. So yeah, you can do whatever you want. Now life happens. Just like at a 9 to 5, you get sick and you have to call in sick to work every now and then. That happens. It's okay. Sometimes we need to cancel a show or move a show. Sometimes. It's not every single time. If you call in sick, on your 9 to 5 every single day, what's going to happen? You're going to get fired. I mean, unless you're like in some job that's totally protected and you never get fired. Unless you're in something weird, odds are you're going to get fired. You got to apply that same mindset if you want that business growth to your Whatnot business. I took another show off because I had the flu and because your customers expect that. It's a good thing when they start messaging you. Hold on, you guys. I gotta make this screen bigger because I cannot see my comments. Let's see. Let's do this. Oh, there we go. Okay. Right about more reactive. Exactly. Resellers in general, before you start making that mindset shift, are very reactive. It's very just kind of like, whatever, we do this, we do that. But once you start thinking like a CEO, once you start like, this is my business, I am the chief executive officer over every decision. And if you're a one man, one woman show, you're the CEO, the COO, the HR person, you're everything, right? Hold on. My comments, I'm having a hard time with comments this morning because my computer, I can't see a thing. Let's see, we've had a business for about 10 years and have implemented a lot of CEO strategies. For example, planning for the year, but Whatnot has muddled that. Extended Grayson, you're a perfect example because you guys own a shop. Like you really, like you said, 10 years. So you really understand like the business perspective and what it takes. And it's very, once you get into Whatnot makes it so easy. And that's why, like, that's the draw of it, right? It makes it so easy that it's very easy not to think in a business perspective. I see it all the time. Now, I admit I am more of a business perspective, and I do struggle a lot with the social aspect of Whatnot. It is something over the 2 years I've been here that I've had to consciously work on. Let's see who's going to win this giveaway real quick before I start off on another little rant. Tina Treasures, congratulations. That's going to you. Thank you for being here this morning. Okay. Oh, Extended Grace, thank you so much. That makes me happy. So because Whatnot makes it so easy, we just think it's not a real business, or we think it's easy just to be like, oh, I'll do what I want. You can't. But if you really want to see growth, you really want to see direction, you want to take this to somewhere else, then you need to start thinking about it like you are the chief executive officer. So let's do another example. A reseller will say, I'm going to do dollar starts and hope that it works. You might do a little research, you might look at some of your analytics, but you're going to be like, I'm going to do dollar starts. Let's hope and pray that this works. Let's hope and pray I don't get taken and don't lose all my money, right? A CEO isn't operating on hope and prayers. A CEO is using pricing as a strategic measure, not a gamble. It's part of their strategy. It's not accidental, it's engineered. They are using it as a thought out measure, as a tool to drive their sales, not just a hope and a prayer. They have a plan for if it does work. They have a plan for if it doesn't work. So there's just this different mindset. We got to get away from, oh, I hope to, you know what, I'm going to do this. And this is what I expect to happen based on my research, based on my knowledge, based on my analytics. If it does not happen, I have the capital, I have the reserves to absorb that loss. And this is the focus. This is the change I'm going to make if it does not work. I'm going to give it X numbers of shows. I'm going to look at my analytics. I'm going to, evaluate the data before I make another decision. That's how a CEO thinks. They're not just, all right, let's try dollar starts. Oh, shoot, I lost a lot of money. Okay, that did it. Let's try free shipping. Oh, shoot, I lost a lot of money. That's a reseller perspective. Additionally, as long as I'm going to harp on this kind of example, you will hear a lot of people, oh, I can never afford to do dollar starts. They're looking at item by item. They're looking at one little thing instead of looking at a big picture. CEOs do not look at every little item. They look at the big picture. They look at, well, what are the systems I have in place? How is the flow of my operations? What is my profit, my gross and my net overall? What are my expenses overall? How is a show performing? How is a series of shows performing overall? That's how a CEO looks at it. Do you think the CEO of Nike cares about the price of selling one pair of Nike shoes? I mean, look at how many times you can find them, like, on clearance or something. No, it's a strategic plan overall, right? And that's how we, as CEOs of our Whatnot businesses, need to look at it. So anybody here, if you guys actually compare historical data, have you ever done this? Looked at your analytics and made projections. And I'm going to give you an example on how this works in a second, but I'm curious if you guys have ever done this. Looked at your analytics and said, okay, I want to make this change. If I make this change, these are the numbers I think I may see due to the change I'm making. I love seeing all the yeses. That just makes my CPA heart happy. I love discounts. I know you do. You're a very analytical person. We've talked about that a lot. Okay, I'm going to give you guys an example on what I mean, on how I've used that thought process recently. So many of you know in my other shows, I've been doing free shipping since June. In my vintage decor shows, I've been doing free shipping. I'm a huge proponent of free shipping. I love free shipping. The goal is to be free shipping across the board eventually. But I'm also, come this 2026, decided we are going to start selling jewelry. I needed to look at the whole plan. I need to look at how do these different product lines, how do they work together? How do they work under the umbrella of Zoe's Treasures? And it's not just, I'm going to look at vintage, I'm going to look at jewelry, but I need to look at the whole big picture, right? So I looked at shipping because that's part of the picture. I took all my analytics, I pulled everything from Whatnot, I put it into a spreadsheet, and I calculated all the shipping costs. And I was used to the shipping costs. I'm used to the free shipping. That was a cost I was able to absorb. I felt there was a lot of other benefits and profits going on, that it was working. It had been working for 6 months for me. But then I went and looked at jewelry. And I said, well, how fast do I expect this jewelry to take off? What is a logical, how many sales do I expect to make? And I can't say, oh, I expect to sell out a jewelry show just like I do a vintage decor show. That's not a realistic expectation, right? So I said, okay, well, I know I'm going to take a loss for a little while. Take a loss for a little while on the jewelry side. Let's see who won that. Crafty Fairies, congratulations. That one's going to you.
Congratulations.
And I want to offer free shipping there. So how do I figure this out, right? So I looked at my shipping for my vintage decor, and I said, okay, well, if I weren't to do free shipping, what if I did reduce at $9 or $9.21? Let's see. Look at them, but need to get better handling on Whatnot Analytics. Absolutely. And Whatnot Analytics, it's good for a company that's not built from an accounting perspective. It's pretty decent. There's room for improvement. But you can pull a little bit of work on our sides. We can pull out everything we need. We really can. That is the quickest I've ever seen. It is. I know. I usually forget. I'm trying to get better. See, I have goals for 2026 I'm working on. Um, so what I did is I looked at my shipping. I said, well, what if I went to 921? Well, what is that going to do to my sales? Am I going to have to sell every item if I'm charging 921 shipping? Probably not. And so I said, okay, that will probably give me a 40% reduction, just based on knowledge, based on things that have happened before. So I looked and I ran the numbers on that. I took what is my average over the last 6 months, average number of items sold, average price they sell for, average shipping costs, and what if I reduced all of that by 40%? This is what it looks like for me. I'm like, but I really don't want to do 921. All right, so what if I do 7? What if I do 5? What if I do 3? And I ran all these different numbers, and the lower you go in shipping, the less of a reduction that I would expect to see in sales. So just projection after projection to figure out the right number. I picked 450 for my vintage decor shows, not just by picking a number out of a hat. It was a thought through a couple of hours process of running numbers on a spreadsheet to figure out the mix on where I felt customers would be comfortable, where I would be comfortable as a business owner, as the CEO, and where I thought it made sense in the whole scheme of things. This is how CEOs operate. That's the type of mindset you need to have. Now, I know some of you are probably sitting there saying, oh my God, that is like the least thing I want to do is spend hours on a spreadsheet. Like I never want to do that. Because of what I do, probably take that to an extreme. I'm using that as an example. The outcome of that, what you guys should be thinking about if spreadsheets and stuff aren't your thing, is just how do you use what's available to you to make good, educated, strategic decisions. That's kind of the key of that one. So let's move on and let's go to our next point. Let's see, what time is it? Oh, we're doing good. All right. So we talked about how CEOs plan. Let's talk now, moving on to CEOs' decisions align with goals. Okay. Every decision we make as a CEO should align with a goal. So what does that mean? You have to have goals first, right? You need to know where in the heck you're going in order to get there. I'm not going to talk a lot about goals at the moment. Next week, we're going to talk more about it. I know goals, because it's the new year, has been a big hot topic. How do you make projections when you don't have enough sales data? You have to just make an educated guess at that point, and then you start to true up or firm up that guess through the data that you accumulate. So, Christelle, you've been on long enough where you can actually see some numbers. But like if you're just starting out, if you're a brand new seller, never had a show, and you want to make some projections, first of all, I would never recommend doing reduced or free shipping as a brand new seller. You should just charge shipping the way it is for at least 4 or 5 shows so you can get some data. But if you're a brand new seller, would you expect to have your first show be a sold out show? Probably not. a lot of this stuff in business, we tend to overcomplicate things. A lot of it comes back to just logic and gut feelings. But my sales are not very high and not really enough data. But your sales are your sales. That's where you're at. So even if you don't have really high sales and you have 4 or 5 shows, you have data to build from. No matter what that is, if you sold one thing per show, you have data to work from. So you sell one thing, you have 5 shows, you sold one thing per show at say $10 per item. So first of all, you create your goals. We talk about, you figure out what goal you want, but you look at that data and you say, okay, in my next show, what I expect if I show 30 items and I've been selling one, can I expect to sell 15 items in one show? Probably not. But what is a realistic expectation? I could double that. I could sell 2. I may even be able to triple that. I could probably sell 3. What do I need to do to change that based on these numbers? How long are people watching? How many people are coming to your shows? So you start looking at this and say, okay, well, I need to get more people in the room, or my prices seem a little high. Maybe, we need to look at our pricing strategy. So no matter where you're starting from, treasure chest, congratulations, you got that giveaway. No matter where you're starting from, you can make some type of a projection. Let's see. Well, hello. Common elements, welcome in. Okay. So decisions align with goals. Next week, we're going to talk really in depth about goals. I know it's been a big topic. Hopefully I can bring a different perspective of some sort. I will definitely be trying. But let's just use, good morning, Monster Mama. Let's just talk about, I'm going to use a few goals as examples to work through how a CEO would look at something versus a reseller through how your decisions align with goals. I'm going to give you just an example right now. Now, I'm not picking on this, and this could be a hot topic item, and I'm not saying it to cause a debate or to make this something bad in any way, shape, or form. But let's talk about the popular cards that are out there, the reseller cards. Thriftworks makes them. There's probably over 200, at least two. I know we're up to the 250s or so, if not more, on card numbers. So that means 200 or so people have bought these. He's over 300. Thank you. I love discounts. Okay. They are really popular right now. In almost every show, you see a reseller. Hey, here's my Thriftworks card. This is, to me, a perfect example of looking at something that's happening and the mindset between a reseller and a CEO. I could say, oh, those are cool and everybody has them. I want to do it too. And hurry up and order some. That's a reseller gut reaction jumping into something decision. I am not saying they're bad, and I'm not saying anybody's bad if they bought them. I'm pointing out 2 different ways of making a decision. Or you can say, these cards are really cool. I'm really attracted to this. I would love to have one. How does this align with what I'm doing in my business? How does this align with the goals I have? Will buying this card, giving the card away, or selling the card align with my sales goals, with my strategic decision? That's how a CEO would look at it. Just because it's cool, just because it's trendy, just because all the other kids are doing it, doesn't mean you need to do it. And I just use that as an example because it's something we can all relate to because we see it everywhere. I'm not saying it, please don't take it any way that they're bad or wrong or anybody's bad for doing it. I'm just giving you 2 different ways to look at it. I try to come at it from, here's my goal, here's the strategy, does this fit in the guardrails? I say, oh, thank you. Toys cucumber card. Yes. So that's just one example. Let's talk about some other types of examples on how to align your
I love
decisions with your
discounts.
goals.
It should have been a banana card. Just saying.
Okay. How about the goal of I want a predictable monthly income? A lot of us want to, maybe move away from a 9 to 5, and we need a predictable monthly income in order to quit something else we're doing in life to do this full time. Or maybe you love what you're doing on 9 to 5, but you still want to know I can make at least X number of dollars every month doing whatnot, right? So a reseller mindset says, I will. I have to read my note here. I will sell whatever I find and hope it works out this month. That the reseller is I'm just going to go to Goodwill and whatever I see that catches my eye, I'm just going to sell what I love. I'm just going to buy anything. They're the person in Goodwill or at an auction who is buying games and clothes and vintage, and they're just going to start dabbling to see what hits. Right? That's a reseller mindset. A CEO point of view is my goal is to make 4K this month. I need a consistent weekly revenue, not just random wins. I'm going to schedule fixed weekly shows. I'm going to choose inventory with a steady demand or choose inventory that I know sells. We're going to build repeatable show formats. That's the CEO mindset. So you're going from this, I'm just going to go buy a bunch of stuff. I'm going to pop up my phone. I'm going to make some money to how do I structure making money? How do I make this a consistent week after week thing with something that I can almost guarantee that sells? Does does that mean, let's see. So that's I'm sorry. My husband's in the background talking, and I don't know if you can hear him or if I just can hear him. But so only I can hear him talking to me. Kelly, congratulations! Thank you
I'm
so much.
I am whispering in her ear, and what I'm saying is, how do you engineer repeat success?
Exactly. Thank you, my love. That is a very good point. Sorcery. Yes. Well, I'm so. If you guys are just joining, I am sitting in what state am I in? I'm in Texas. I'm in Houston. I'm sitting in Houston, and he is at home in Pennsylvania. So when he says something, I don't know since I'm not in the same room if you can hear or not. Um, so my love, you have to go in the bubble if you're talking. All right. So yes, repeated success. What are you doing? So predictable income comes from systems, not surprises.
She's
Doesn't
leaving
mean every
today.
now and then you're going to get a hit.
She's leaving
Um,
today. She's coming home today. Yay.
yes, I'm coming home today. I've been here since Tuesday. I came Tuesday. Then I leave again Thursday. We're going to Indiana. I get to see I Love Discount. So I have a cheer comp in Indiana. We'll be gone for 5 days. Then we come home, and a week later we go to New Jersey for a couple of days. We go to Atlantic City. So it's a busy time. Cheer comp season is a busy time. Thank you so much. Hopefully my flight home will be a little bit better, and I won't get yelled at on the plane like I did on my way here. Um, oh, we could have. I didn't realize you were so close. I am flying out about 7 o'clock tonight, but unfortunately, I have to work till about 5. So I still have a full day of work. But crystals, we come here quite frequently, at least a couple times a year. So I will make sure that I let you know ahead of time next time, and we can set something up. I would love to have lunch with you one day. That would be wonderful. Okay. Um, let's see. How about a goal? How about this one? My goal is higher profit, not just sales. So, what kind of decisions am I making for higher profit and not just sales? A reseller mindset is, oh wow, I made 10K in sales. I'm killing it. Okay, good. You made 10K in sales. You're killing it. A CEO says, my goal is to have a 50% margin after fees, not just big gross numbers. They're looking at the big picture. They're not looking at just sales. And I've got to kind of divert here for a quick second because this is one of my really big pet peeves is you'll hear a lot of people on chat shows. That's your biggest goal. I'm so happy for you. I work in King. Oh, okay. Oh, awesome. I am in Crystals. I am in the Woodlands. I'm in the Woodlands area right now. Okay, so my one of my biggest pet peeves is you'll hear a lot of resellers, and there's some big ones out there. I made 6 figures, and so can you. Blah 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 blah. That's wonderful. Nobody's disclosing what it takes to make those 6 figures. Nobody is telling you what their net profit is. And as a CEO, that's to me, I made 6 figures and so can you is a very reseller mindset. A CEO is going to say, okay, but how much money did you spend to make your 6 figures? Because if you make 100,000 and at the end of the year you've spent 99,000 to make that 100, If you've spent 99,000 to make that 100,000, good for you for your $1,000 at the end of the day. Like, so the CEO is like, and what are you doing to make that? Are you working 80 hours a week? Or is this a reasonable time frame? Do you have a work life balance? It's not just dollars. There's so much that goes into that. And for resellers just to start throwing out there, well, I made this much money, but shipping supplies, yeah, exactly. Previously mentioned, all that stuff adds into it. So every time I hear that, I just like, oh, a little piece of me dies inside. I'm like, don't do that. Like, be honest. I'm not one that everybody should share all of their financials. I think financials are personal to you, but you could say I made 100,000. At the end of the day, I only netted 10% of that was take home or something like that. Like, you can give estimates. You can give, like, disclose it without giving away all your confidential information. You can have more transparency than what's being put out there. And the work life balance. Exactly. You may have made six figures, but were you flying around the country doing it? Or were you, how many hours were you really working? Did you have help? Do you have people helping you ship? Because if you have a team of people helping you sell and ship and clean out lockers or do whatever you do, that's far different than me, myself, and I doing everything, right? Um, Working like a dog, yeah. So there's a lot more to it. So as a CEO, I'm looking at everything. I'm looking at the big picture. I have a specific goal, 50% margin after all the fees and everything, and what it takes to get to that goal. So that was on that one. Let's look at another example of this. I want brand recognition and repeat buyers. So if I want brand recognition and repeat buyers, as a reseller, my mindset is going to be, I'll run a little bit of everything to get me more return people. The more stuff I run, the more broader of an audience I'm going to get. That's very short-term thinking. What happens when you start to not run such broad items, when you're not running everything under the sun and you start specializing? All those people you built up are going to go, right? You may only going to retain a small portion of those. Whereas a CEO mindset says, my goal is to be known for something specific. That doesn't mean you can't branch out, you can't add on, but build up doing something specific. Build up doing clothing or cards or vintage, and then start to build out. And even from there, if you look around the vintage decor, like the resellers in vintage decor, looking around the ones that have been here for a bit, they have very specific stuff. That if you want spools or you want primitive, there's certain people that do really heavy on primitive. They've built a reputation for that. Um, you're in that category? Yeah, so me too. So we do a lot of vintage. If you're in jewelry, the certain people you want to go to for vintage versus new jewelry or gold versus silver, whatever it may be. And if you really start looking at the people who you deem are successful, they're probably have more focused areas. This is part of the reason why Whatnot structured it the way they did. Not just for organization so that you can like pick a category, but if it was a free for all, if you just opened up Whatnot and there were shows everywhere of every different category, it would be very overwhelming, very confusing. You wouldn't know where to go. It would be quickly just sensory overload, right? So it's organized in two categories. Why? Because we like, as humans, order and structure. That flows into a CEO's perspective of, I'm going to sell something and design shows around something. Yes, overstimulating. So think about like stores like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. Crystals, thank you. Crystals, congratulations. You just got that giveaway.
Congratulations.
Thank you for being there. Um, so think about, yeah, like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. They're not selling dinner. You don't go there for dinner, right? They have a niche. They have coffee and donuts or coffee and pastries. Look at successful businesses. So, I mean, I'm not just kind of like blowing smoke here. This is a proven thing that does work. Um, so your actions, it's a narrow inventory focus. I know when I go into a when I go into a thrift store, I walk right by the clothes. I don't sell clothes. I know I don't sell clothes. You know what this also helps me do? keeps my decisions in line with my goals, because I can walk through the clothes and I can see some designer, maybe there's a Gucci dress or something, and I'm like, oh, that would sell on Whatnot. But then my CEO brain kicks in and says, your strategic plan is expanding your vintage decor and your jewelry business. Has nothing at all to do with the Gucci dress. As cool as it may be, as much money as it may make me, I'm going to keep walking by it. It does not fit in with my strategic goals. I have a narrow inventory focus. I know what I sell, right? Consistent show names. This is, your brand recognition, your repeat buyers, your consistent show names. They know how to find you. They know what your logo looks like. It trains buyers to recognize you as the go-to source. So we want that specificness, that narrow inventory is helping train buyers. When they think of, whatever it may be, they know they can come to you for it, right? Okay, let's do another example. Less burnout, more sustainability. We talked about a work-life balance. I tried expanding in jewelry, but sourcing was difficult for me. Sourcing jewelry can be difficult depending on the type of jewelry you're selling. Absolutely. If you are really interested in jewelry, I would recommend listening to some of what Green 13 says, because he is a huge jewelry reseller. And also, if you're looking to learn how to expand into jewelry, I Love Discounts is actually going through that and can give you some real firsthand experience of what they've been going through in their expansion into jewelry. Southern Charm too. She's another one that's recently expanding. So those are some existing, successful, established, and newer into that category that can give you different perspectives. And most most of the people, Green 13 maybe not. He's super busy, and he does talk shows, so you can go and get information. But a lot of these other people, if you message them on Whatnot, a lot of people are very kind and helpful and be like, yeah, I would love to talk to you about this. And will either call you or message you, whatever their comfort level is. And I can almost guarantee somebody like an I Love Discounts, I know they've done it for other people, would be like, you want to talk about jewelry? Sure, I'll talk to you for a few minutes, So sorry, I Love Discounts. I'm just putting you out there. All right. So we talked about, what about this goal? What does a mindset look like for less burnout, more sustainability, that work-life balance? A reseller is going to say, I'm just going to go live every chance I get. The more I go live, the more money I'm going to make. There's some truth to that, because we do say go live when, as often as you can. But it's not just this haphazard randomness of going live. It's a planned, let me look at how this is going to work. Always be selling. Yes, always be selling when you're running a show. A CEO mindset is going to be, my goal is to build something I can maintain long term. Always start with the end in mind. Okay. I'm not starting a Whatnot business where I am going to be on 6 days a week. Because I'll tell you what, 5 years down the road, my goal is not to be on 6 days a week. Now, if that's your goal, if that's where you want to go, if that's your end game, if that's, having that end in mind, then maybe you should start like that. My goal is building a consistent business that I can have a show, have time to ship, have a show, have time to ship. So I'm going to build it with that in mind. Excuse me. I'm going to start with that. So fewer shows, but better planned shows. Okay. Higher quality inventory. I'm not going to get on here and just do a garage sale. I'm going to do the best I can to have the highest quality inventory. And that can look different to everybody, right? The highest quality you can get may be different than the highest quality somebody who's been here doing this for a few years can get. There is some growth to that. Oh, thank you. Um, a CEO reviews what drains their energy, and they review what produces results. So if something is draining your energy, that's not going to keep happening. Common Elements, congratulations, you got that giveaway. If you guys missed it at the beginning, giveaways today are 2 postcards and one of our rewards cards. Our rewards cards are like coupons, and you keep them because you can combine them in different shows for different amounts off. So as a CEO, my focus is on things that are going to produce results, not things that are draining me. Okay. Also, your inventory get better over time as you see what sells more. Exactly. As you start to refine your niche and refine your focus, your inventory, you become laser focused on it. Your inventory gets better and better and better because you know what to look for. You're not distracted by all the noise around you, all the other stuff. And I'm going to use Goodwill as an example just because it's real easy to picture in your head. When you walk into a Goodwill, there's a lot going on. If I know that I am focused on a certain thing, I'm not distracted by everything else that's going on around me. I'm walking my path to my inventory and looking at what I need to look at. I can get in and out of a Goodwill in 10 minutes if I have to, because there's 3 or 4 aisles that I look at and that's it. That's where I go. I know where my focus is, right? Yeah, if you're selling now, if you are a reseller who purchases pallets or storage units, it's a little bit different, but it's the same concept applies. You know what you're looking for. If you're purchasing storage units, you know I don't want one where I'm going to look for certain things. My focus is on, maybe, and I'm kind of flying blind here because I don't do storage units, but maybe you're thinking I only want storage units where I see big Rubbermaid tubs. That indicates to me that people have put things in there that to keep them safe in some format. It indicates maybe that there's more collectible type items in there. I'm going to make sure I am not buying any storage units that I see rodent evidence of that rodents have been there. Or you're focused, you know what you're looking for. So you have to take the concept and massage it a bit to fit into your category. Um, I mean, what I'm saying is kind of high level, and you kind of massage it into what fits for you. Clothing. Maybe your focus is jeans works are women's. I sell women's clothes. That seems to be what works for me. I'm going to keep going with women's clothes. So you're not distracted by the men's aisles. You never go down the men's aisles. I don't sell that. I don't care how good the stuff is. Right now, my focus is over here on women's. So you kind of got to change it up to fit whatever it is that you're selling. You clear out estates, so I have a huge variety, but I stopped doing that to sell what source and see. Oh, piece by piece the better stuff. And absolutely, Crystal. So you're kind of thinking along the same lines. And even if you're doing estate sales, that focus comes in if you're clearing out an estate. Now you have a whole house full of a bunch of miscellaneous different things, right? But you have a still a focus of I'm only going to sell. You set up those guardrails, those boundaries that fit within your goals. I'm only going to sell stuff that is smaller than a 12 by 12 that I can sell within a vintage decor category. All right, now I have some boundaries. So when the estate person calls me and says, "Hey, come clean this house out," I know if it is not smaller than a 12 by 12 and I can't logically sell it in the vintage decor category, it's going to somewhere else. It's going on another platform. It's going in the garbage. It's going to be done, whatever you're doing with it. So no matter what you're doing, you can have that focus. You can narrow your inventory and be more focused on what you're doing. Okay, but we're talking about less burnout, more sustainability. Um, just really starting with the end in mind is kind of the big picture there. Another goal, legitimacy and long-term business growth. I don't know about you. I'm not doing this just to say a small potato the rest of my life. I want to make something. I don't need to be the top dog, but I want to make something of this, right? So a reseller is going to say, oh, it's just some side income. If that's where you want to keep it, if that's your goal, okay, that's okay if that's your goal. Most of us want to grow. CEO is going to say, I want this to grow, so I am going to operate like a real business. I'm going to operate in a fashion to make it grow. I'm going to have separate finances. I'm going to track my income and my expenses. I'm going to have sourcing decisions based on my return. So everything you're doing is focused in on that goal. Selling is hard if you already have a shaky foundation. 100%, you got to build that from the ground up. Again, that's where I go back to start with the end in mind. Think about where you want to be. I said in a show a long time ago, close your eyes and take some time. Take your cup of coffee, a quiet spot, whatever you need to really think, however thinking works for you. And close your eyes and picture, where do you want to be? What is the ideal business for you? And then build to that. Okay, I may not be in Aruba. Well, Nobody's stopping you.
Take me
Like,
with you.
really, think about where you want this business to go. Start now with the end in mind. I may not be selling, you know, $100,000 in sales a month, but I'm going to act like I am. I'm going to operate like I am because someday I'm going to be there, right? Your behavior today determines whether growth is possible tomorrow, right? What you are doing today determines where you're going to be tomorrow and the next day and the day after that. All right, let's move on to the next point because are we about on time? Yeah, we're in there somewhere. All right, let me do another giveaway. Okay, let's talk about point three, reseller mind shift to CEO. Time is an asset. Now, I'm going to get to another point after at the bottom of this, but time is an asset. Time is a measurable, valuable asset. Resellers say, I'm just going to stay live as long as possible. Who's heard this? Who's heard as you're a new seller, the advice given to new sellers is stay on as long as you can. Run for 6 hours. Keep going. Run the longest shows you can possibly run. I heard that advice. That's how you started staying on as long. Yeah, it's something that's out there. We hear this a lot. I don't believe in that. And again, everything you hear is Tracy's based on Tracy's opinion, personal experience, business experience. I do not believe in that. And then the shipping kills you. Absolutely, it does. Especially if you're a one-man show, right? To me, I'm going to stay on as long as possible as a reseller mindset. A CEO says every hour live should produce a predictable return. I'm going to stay on as long as each hour is meeting the goals I set to stay on or close to meeting those goals. Each hour that I'm on is valuable. And if I'm not getting a return on my time for that hour, that show is going to end. I'm going to stop the bleeding. I'm going to stop the bleeding of my time. I'm going to go back and evaluate and figure out how to do it better and make that more efficient use of my time. Okay? So just because you're doing something longer doesn't mean it's producing better results. It's the results each hour produces, not the amount of hours. Quality over quantity. And I don't say quality over quantity as far as the number of items you sell. Quality in what the each hour is giving you versus just a lot of hours. Um, thank you, Crystals. I pivoted to how long it took me to pack and ship. Exactly. Each hour should be producing what you need. Intentional show lengths. I almost never run more than 2 hours. I run based on the number of items that I set out to sell. If that takes me an hour, it takes me an hour. If it takes me an hour and 45 minutes, it takes me an hour and 45 minutes. Planned inventory in advance. I'm going to sell half a pallet. Okay, that may take 4 or 5 hours, but if it's producing those returns hour after hour and you're selling through half the pallet, it's worth it then, right? My ChatGPT says 2 hours is the sweet spot for show length. I'm so happy you said that. We're just under 2 hours for me. That's what I found is my sweet spot. And of course, a lot of this is going to be dependent on what you sell. If you are a volume seller, maybe your goal is, okay, I want to sell 80 items an hour. If you can get through 80 an hour and they're selling over and over again, then it makes sense. Oh, look, I just got to 76 items in the first hour. All right, that's giving me a return. Let's do another hour. But the minute you start, if you're, you said if your goal is to run 80 items an hour and you did about 76 the first hour, you're like, okay, it's producing a return for me, right? And then you run 100 the next hour. Yep, it's still producing a return for me. You go to the third hour and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, you just sold 20. Am I getting the return I need? Is my time being utilized right now in this moment? Now you may want to stay on a little bit longer to see if that flips, but there comes a spot where you're like, This isn't worth my time at this moment. My time would be better spent stopping the show, evaluating why did I just have that big drop off, and fixing it for the next show. So it's how you're using your time. You track average. You're looking at your average revenue, average items sold, your average order value. So you're using some metric to track the return on your time throughout your show. CEOs aren't just working longer, they're optimizing revenue per hour. They're not just putting in more hours, those hours are profitable hours for them, right? They're optimizing. They're focused in on things that are making them money, advancing their business, driving them towards their goals, not just putting time in. Okay. You can't keep just throwing time at something and hoping it fixes it. Carly Q, you got that giveaway.
Congratulations.
All right. Now, you've heard me in the past say, I get on people when they talk about pricing. This is kind of a little rabbit trail I'm going down here because time is an asset, and I totally feel 100% behind that statement. But you've also heard me say the value of the items aren't tied up with your time. I'm going to stand behind that statement too. Please do not get the two concepts confused. Your time and the return on your time when you're doing something, what you're doing, how you optimize that time makes it the asset. The value of an item you have has nothing at all to do with your time unless you're handmade. Handmade is a completely different category. I cannot put them into this statement. They're their own category. They don't kind of fit into this. But whatever I'm selling has nothing to do with the time it took me. Okay. Just because I sourced it, I washed it, I hunted through 10 million things to get it, whatever, has nothing at all to do with the value of that item. When I am sourcing, my sourcing should produce an ROI separately from the item itself. My sourcing, I should be able to, and when I say my sourcing should produce an ROI, means that I'm going to narrow down if I'm using acronyms that you might not be familiar with, ROI is return on investment. So my sourcing, my return on my investment for my sourcing means that I am going to focus my sourcing efforts on vendors, businesses, or places that I know I can get the items I need. That means I'm not just going to randomly, if I have 2 hours to source on a Saturday morning, I'm not going to randomly just drive from thrift store to thrift store hoping I find something. I'm not operating on a hope and a prayer. I am going to the thrift store I know has produced items for me in the past, the antique mall that I know there's booths that sell things that I can afford and that fit in my business. I'm focusing in on where I'm going to things that have proven to me in the past to be a source that's been valuable to me. There's times for experimentation and times to find new sources, but in general, I'm optimizing the use of my time. And this is a big one for me. I work full time, so do a lot of you work full time. I don't have a lot of time to source over and over. So I have spent 2 years really developing where I'm going to make the use of the small amount of time. Most of my sourcing, my in-person sourcing stuff I do not do online through online auctions. The stuff I do in person happens in a 2 hour window while my daughter is in cheer practice. I have a very short window and I live in the country, which means 30 minutes of that is of driving time easy. So I have a very short 2 hour window of I can go to a couple of different places, but I'm going to focus in on one that actually I know on a regular basis usually has things I can sell. All right, so that's what I mean about focused in. So we kind of talked about that. Here's another example. When we go from time as an asset, I'll figure it out when I'm live. A reseller says, "Oh, I'll figure that out. I'm just going to go live. Hit that go live button. I'll figure it out." Where a CEO says, my time is an asset. I'm going to prepare for my show. My preparation protects my time, protects my lifetime. I'm going to prepare my inventory. I'm going to lay it out or organize it in a way that I want to sell it. This becomes huge when you start doing reduced or free shipping. When you start having to have a mix of various items, you need to know when to sell it. We've talked about that theory. Jeremy's mentioned it, the arbitrary coherence. I need to know if in an order of what I'm selling, because the price I sell one item for can greatly affect, either in a good way or a bad way, the price of the next item. I'm thinking through this before the show. I'm not just hitting that go live button and just it's a free for all. That's not what's happening. It is a very thought through process. I have a show flow. Maybe it's not written down, but I know in my head when you come to our first jewelry show on the 14th, you're going to see a very consistent show flow. And the more shows you come to, the more you're going to be start to expect it. You're going to see we're going to do a fun game. We're going to do some selling, some selling. We have the craftsman selection. We have some more selling. We have another game. So there's going to be a very specific show flow, and this can apply no matter what you're doing. In your head you should have some flow of what you're doing, even if you're doing something that is considered a haphazard thing, a live unboxing, or grabbing a palette and just pulling things out. You may be surprised by the item, which is wonderful because your surprise can help increase your sales. But even if it's something that you're being surprised by, you have a who got that show Snow White tea. I'm sorry, it went too fast. It looked like Snow White. Congratulations, thank you for being here. um Even if you're doing something that can be considered a haphazard, like unboxings or random polls, could still be a planned show flow. I'm going to start with an opening. I'm going to move into this box first. Then I'm moving to this box. I took a peek and I know this box has some high value stuff, so I'm going to save that for this part of the show. Then I'm going to ask for request. Then I'm going to do a closing. You can still have a show flow even if you are doing a random haphazard type um, unveiling of items. So knowing how that flow of your show goes. Do you think any movie producer, any Broadway musical, any television commercial, any TV show just turns a camera on and starts going? Never. It's a planned flow. You don't have to write it down, but you should be thinking through it ahead of time. That's how a CEO thinks. A, res- a reseller thinks, I'm just going to just go. Y'all, if you are new here, really quick, I'm taking a second to plug myself. Just if you're new here, we do have, this isn't mine spiral bound, the ones I'm selling are not. We do have a live seller, it's called the private ledger, Q1 private ledger. It is like a workbook that complements everything I'm saying. It goes through with the notes that we have, and then it also has a third page with thought-provoking questions based on the topics each week. If you're interested in something like that, it is in the bin. We do have a PDF version of that also, if you're new here and have not seen that. All right. So we talked about just figuring out, just flying by the seat of your pants, or having that thought through process. How about this one? This is a big one. Resellers thinks, hold on. SS Vintage says, I worked in the film industry for 25 years. The prep sometimes takes longer than the shooting. 100%. 100%. I can easily spend 2 hours to prep for an hour show. I totally get what you're saying. And I hope that you guys are thinking through that too, especially those of you who are, maybe even just doing random polls. That's what I do. So while it may look random, well, it may look like when I do a show, I say, oh, we're going to start today. Let's start on the bottom shelf. I'm going to work through my shelves. You better believe darn well that I have laid those items on those shelves for a reason. CG Boomerang Echo is rating with a party of 21.
Welcome in,
Thank
Raiders.
you so much.
Grab your hats and step into Zoe's Treasures, where the relics aren't cursed. They are for sale.
Good morning, Moody. So one of the things we do when somebody raids, we're going to stop really quick. One of the things we do is we always like to recognize our raider for coming on over. So while my husband gets that ready, y'all, if you're new to me, thank you so much for coming. My name's Tracy. This is Zoe's Treasures. This morning is a chat show. Right now we're talking about business, and we're going to move into a tax topic. Please hang out, ask questions, and just, check it out. And are you ready, my love? Okay. So one of the next topics I'm going to talk about before we show CG's, when my husband gets ready to show CG's profile there, is as a reseller. And this morning's topic right now, we're talking about moving from a reselling mindset to a CEO mindset. All right. So one of the things resellers think, I'll do my bookkeeping and administrative stuff later. I'm going to do all those paper, all that yucky stuff. I'll just do it later. I'll take care of it later. Right. A CEO says those low value tasks should take the least mental energy, right? I'm going to do it at a time. I'm going to schedule a time for it. I'm not going to stress about it. I'm not going to waste my mental energy on it. I'm going to schedule a time for it, set it aside, knock it out and do it, and not worry about it. So what does that look like in real life? What does the CEO do in real life on Whatnot? You're the CEO of your business. All right, let's take a quick break and take a really quick look at CG's profile. There is Miss CG Boomerang Echo. Um, awesome Ray Train conductor. She is the queen of Ray Trains. Anything you need to know about it, you can catch on her shows. She also does a morning show every morning where she actually comes in her bathrobe and towel on her head and gives us a talk every morning. So you can check her out there. And she sells stuff there. She lives in a church, an old church, and she does some cool stuff with the ghost in her house, which is fun. And of course, all of her awesome Ray Trains. So if you guys like what you see, now you know where you can go and get more info. Okay. So what does using the least amount of mental energy, what does that look like as a CEO on Whatnot for you? What does that mean to you? It means batching your administrative work. It means saying, all right, every Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, I'm going to spend 1 hour, I'm going to knock this out. So I'm not worried about it all the rest of the week. I'm going to take care of this because I know if I don't, it's going to build up into a bigger problem. It means be more thrifty. Congratulations, you got that giveaway. It means creating systems, using templates, and automation. Automating anything you can. You have a system for shipping. You have a system where you do your show prep. It's done in the same manner every time. Because I'm not going to waste mental energy reinventing the wheel day after day after day. No, I'm going to set up a system and I'm going to follow it. And then that reduces me and allows my mind to really focus in on the things that are going to make me money, advance my business, and drive me to my goals, right? It means protecting those peak energy hours for selling and strategy. If I know I am at my best first thing in the morning, I'm not going to spend my best mental time when I'm focused, I'm awake, I'm alive. I'm not going to spend that time doing bookkeeping. I'm going to spend that time selling. I'm going to schedule my shows. I'm going to schedule my energy hours into the items, into the things that drive my business. So that's kind of the mind shift to that is, again, it goes back to planning. We said at the very beginning, CEOs plan. They plan everything, not just the show. They plan when they're going to do these mentally draining tasks so they can spend really good high energy tasks on the things that are driving their business. CEOs don't do more, they do what matters most, right? It's not this, and again, it goes back to I'm optimizing each hour of my day. I'm not just adding more hours. Let's go on to, what time are we at? Let's move on to point number 4. Good morning. Hello. Work smarter, not harder. Absolutely. Print of all the tasks I need to plan. I wish I had a printout of all the tasks I need to plan out. So Moody, this is a key point. Everybody should be working from a system that works for them. There is no CEO out there that is winging it every day. I can guarantee, if they are, they're probably not a very good CEO. CEOs do not wing it. There is a plan every single day of what they're going to do. That plan could be as simple as 3 bullet points of the main 3 things I need to accomplish that day. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be complicated. Okay. And you have to find how that works for you. It may be in your notes app on your phone. It may be a written notebook. It may be a full out, like old school planner, but you plan what you're doing. That's a CEO mindset. That's a CEO action. Oh, I know. What does it say? Oh, I know one. It's a circus. Oh, okay. You know one that's not planned. Yeah, exactly. All right. So point number 4, so we have 5 points under business. We're on point number 4. Systems replace chaos. I cannot stress this enough, you guys. Systems replace chaos. I'm an auditor by nature. It's what I do in my real life. I'm at the point now I write trainings for all of our auditors for a global firm. You know what we look at? You know what makes a company successful when we go in? It's not the numbers. Yeah, we do debits and credits. You know what makes it? It's the systems they have in place. It's a system of internal controls that they set up to safeguard everything they're doing. Systems. It all comes down to your systems that you have in place. You can't just, you can do whatever you want. But the more systems you have, and I wrote down some of the areas that you should have some type of system automation plan for. Sourcing, inventory management, how you're selling, how you're packing and shipping, your record keeping. And that's just off the top of my head. I just jotted those ones down. There should be systems in every single area of your business. So a reseller says, I know what I have. It's around here somewhere. Okay. Look, I have fallen prey to this too. I told a story a few weeks ago how I lost out on a sale because I couldn't find something. Was there a question I missed? My husband is telling me in the background there's a question. I'm not, yes, and oh, they're not asking me. But I'm in Baltimore, kind of in Baltimore too. I know you weren't asking me, but my husband's yelling at me. You missed a question. Oh yeah, the sun's starting to come up back there. All right. I'm in Central. Since I'm in Houston, I'm in Central to this morning. So it was a little early for me. Okay. So a reseller says, and we're talking about systems and a CEO mindset. A reseller mindset says, I know what I have, it's around here somewhere. A CEO says, if it's not tracked, it doesn't exist. If it's not on paper, if it's not on my system, if it's not in my inventory, if it's not, it doesn't exist. And you know what? As an auditor, that's kind of what we say. If there's no documentation, you didn't do it, right? So what does that look like? What do those actions mean? It means when you're looking at inventory, having some type of a tracking system, SKUs or bins or shelves, something that works for you. Amanda, congratulations, you got that giveaway. So it means having a process and a system. Jim says, I definitely working on organizing more than going live at this point to get myself upright and know where all my stuff is. Absolutely. Is it natural state of high? Oh, that's so sweet. That makes me feel good. So if it's not tracked, it doesn't exist. So that means having an organized, it's like I'm talking about inventory right now, having some type of organized system. Having pre-sorted show trays or numbered boxes. It's there, it's ready, it's organized. And notes tied to shows or collections. So you have to have that. We go back to being laser focused. And what you bought fits into your shows. If you're sourcing, you're buying sourcing based on a goal, based on your strategy, based on that laser focus, that fits into your shows. You're selling in that manner. You're setting up in a way to sell for success. And then you move into shipping. There's a system you have for shipping. You should have a system for shipping that is easy enough that if you want to expand, you can bring somebody in and teach them shipping. Now, I know teaching, there's a human element. It becomes harder the more you mix in a human element. Let me see what I'm missing in comments. I went from 3-day shipping to same-day shipping by setting up a dedicated streamlined shipping area. What Liz likes, that is amazing. That is so awesome. And that is like the perfect point right there. That is a perfect example. Once you create a system, a repeatable system, it becomes almost, you don't even think about it. How many of you actually have to think, besides walking out your door and going, keys, phone, wallet, I still have to do that. But even that is a system in itself. But how many of you have to really, really think through, I need to open the door, I need to put my seatbelt on, I need to check my mirrors. When you get in your car, before you back out of your driveway, it becomes a habit. Most of us don't think through each little piece anymore of backing out of our driveway. But remember when you were 16 and you learned to drive? What did you have to do? Okay, get in the car. Our systems in place. That is so. I love hearing that people are putting systems in place. So when you were 16 and you would go to drive, you would have to talk through every step, right? But now you just do it. That's what your shipping should be like. That's what your selling should ultimately get like. You shouldn't be wasting mental energy on those things. Your mental energy should be for your creative time. How do I take my business to the next level? How do I fix a problem I have in my business? How do I do a more entertaining show? That's where your mental energy should be going. What can I do that's new and different? Not, how do I pack a box? I had to ask which was the brake, which was the gas. Oh. Let's see. In my head, my boss is a tyrant, so you work harder. Yes, yeah, the boss in my head too. I'm with you. I bartend, and if I don't have everything I need, where my muscle memory knows where it is, it doesn't work. That's so funny you say that. Nina, my daughter is a bartender too, and she says the same thing. She's like, I hate it when they mess up my system. I have to come in and rearrange my bottles because it is muscle memory. It's, I know where this is. I know this to go in this drink. Boom, boom, boom. That's how it should be in your business. It shouldn't be this free for all shit show every time you go to do a show. It should be organized. No, do not move my scissors. There you go.
Millicents. Millicents, that's me. She moves my scissors all the time.
All right. Let's do, okay. How about this one? So here's another point. We're going to be moving on to the tax topic pretty soon. I'm going over a little bit, but here's another example of systems. Okay, a reseller is going to say, let's just see where this goes. Let's just see. Let's just have fun and see where this goes. Now I say let's have fun, but I'm saying let's have fun, and I already have a plan in place and plan B, C, and D. A CEO says every show has a repeatable format. We go back to the show flow theory I was talking about before. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to like have this big old poster on your wall, but you should have a flow in your head. You should know, when am I running my expensive pieces? When am I moving into my core inventory? Am I ending with bundles? Am I beginning with bundles? How many of you watch these shows and the sellers are like, okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, wait, I'm going to do this. And I'm not saying every show is perfect, because I sure have my moments of like craziness, right? But Autism Crew, congratulations on that giveaway. But for the most part, watching somebody else's crazy isn't an enjoyable moment. I mean, if you're in for reality TV, more power to you, maybe it is. But in general, that's not. Their crazy makes me think, is your crazy on screen also going to be your crazy when it comes to shipping my items? Is it going to be your crazy in sourcing? So it makes me question when I'm watching. That's how I feel when I see it. So, it says, I love discount says, God help you if you use my packing tape or utility knife from your shipping station and not return them. Absolutely. My husband's like that with the studio. I said it the other day, Monday morning or Wednesday morning. I call him all sweet and everything, and I say, hi, honey. The first thing he said is, where's the charger from the studio? Because that's his system. I messed with his system, right? I'm not going to admit that to him. Okay. This is a big one.
Too
When
late.
we're talking about scissors, yeah, I can never find mine. I have like 10 pairs and they're always gone. All right, when we're talking about systems replace chaos, this is a big one here. The reseller, you're going to hear a lot of resellers. You may even have felt this yourself. I'm overwhelmed and I don't know what to work on. There is so much to do, so many things, pressures for my time. I don't even know what to do next. That's a reseller mindset. A CEO mindset, decisions follows rules, not moods. I know I have my plan, I have my list, I have my weekly priorities that I'm working on. I don't care if there's 50 million things. Of the 50 million, there's 3 or 4 that's my priority for this week. That's what I'm focused on. And I'm going to not let all the rest of that noise impact my mood, my stress, my peace, right? Revenue-based task ranking. I'm going to spend the majority of my time on tasks that produce revenue, not tasks that is busy work. Okay, I don't want plan your work and work your plan. Love it. I love that saying. That is it right there. That sums up this whole point. Plan your work and work your plan. Have a clear go and no-go criteria for new ideas. You guys, as resellers, most of us have some type of creative juices, right? It's flowing through us. My mind never stops. I am constantly going to my husband. I have an idea. I have an idea. What if we did this? What if we do that? And I'm going to go back to the ThriftWorks cards here for a second for the people who weren't here before, because I think it's a perfect example. But have a clear go or no go for any new ideas. Have criteria, okay? Anytime we have a new idea, my husband says, we stop and we talk about it. Does it fit into our strategic goal? Does it drive us? Is this something that's going to help us and move us forward into our goal? Does it fit into the parameters we have set up for our business? Does it fit into what we're selling, what we're doing, and how we're operating? If the answer is a no, I don't care how wonderful the idea, it is tabled for another time. So all of you guys, you wake up dreaming of ideas. Yeah. So a lot of you are the same way. I'm hearing comment after comment. Um, I'm a Libra. Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance 100%. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the tip. That is so sweet of you. Um, so yeah, and then we have yes, it never stops. Yeah. So I kind of lost my train of thought. So all of your decisions should be based on our new ideas. Does it fit? Is it a good yes or a no? And I talked about the thrift work cards earlier. So if you're just coming in, I'm going to say it again. I think this is a wonderful example. These are really cool cards. This is a really neat idea, right? And I'm not pushing cards. I'm using an example. A lot of people saw them. There's over 300 people who have them right now. Daisy Lane says, I have a constant conversation going on in my head. Sharing these ideas gets me the side eye from Michelle and Keith. Oh, in my house too, Daisy Lane. My house too. And so a lot of people have the Thriftworks cards. If you have them, throw something in the chat that you have them so people who collect them know that they can go to you in case they don't know that you do and they can get them from you. Feel free to put them in there if you have them. But they're fun. People are enjoying them, right? But what has happened? People see them and they're like, oh, the cool kids have them. I want them. Let's grab them. That's like a reseller mindset. It's everybody else is doing it. I want to do it too. Versus these are really cool cards. I bet I would look cute on one of those cards, but does it fit where I'm going? How does it fit into my strategy? Is this part of the products that I'm selling? Does it fit into my business plans? That's a CEO decision. So I use these not as a way to bash the cards. They're pretty awesome cards. Gabrielle, you got that giveaway. Congratulations. I use it as a way to look at something that's happening, a real life tangible example that a lot of us can relate to on Whatnot right now, and how we make decisions. If you are a business owner, if you are a CEO that is just going to follow all the cool kids and do what the cool kids do all the time, don't expect growth in your own business. Don't expect that that's going to take you. You're just doing what everybody else is doing. Define you, define your business strategy, and do you. Now, if what they're doing fits in with you, great. But if it doesn't, this is where you have to have a clear go or no go decision making process on what you do in your business. All right. Last point for the business side, then we'll do the tax. The tax side's a little bit shorter today. Anyways, clarity builds confidence. So when a seller knows what they're doing, why they're doing it, what success looks like for them, then that confidence automatically follows. I'm not confused by what I'm doing. I'm not pulled in all these other directions because I have my lane. I'm sticking in my lane and I'm growing my business. Let's see. I think I probably have an example or two on that. What does that look like? Let's see. Can you please reiterate each step's title? I think I missed the first three when you're. Oh, absolutely. We'll just kind of do a quick catch up here. So we have talked about this morning. Let me go to my. If you guys are interested, so for the new people here, we are on week 2. I do have all of the key points. There's PDFs or there's workbooks in the bin if you're interested. But I do have all the key points with room for notes. And then each week I do also have a reflection page that asks thought-provoking questions that you can think about for your business. But the key points we've covered so far are CEO's plan. Resellers react. Resellers are haphazard. CEO's plan. Decisions align with goals. Everything we do. This is the Q1 private ledger. It is in the bin if you are interested. The books we're selling are actually bound; they're not spiral. And there's a PDF if you're more interested in a PDF. But it will follow the first quarter of every Friday show if you're the type of person who likes pen and paper and likes to use something to follow. The next key point we talked about after all your decisions should align with your goals. We're talking about a CEO mindset. Time is an asset. Everything we do should be optimizing. Every hour should be optimized for something that's producing revenue in our business. Systems replace chaos. I can't stress enough how having systems is going to calm you and replace that chaos. Thank you for your purchase from the bin. If you're getting any PDFs out of the bin, make sure you DM me your email so that we can get them to you right away. Clarity builds confidence, and that's where we're at right now. We're talking about clarity building confidence. So here's a big one. I want to make one key point, then we're going to switch over to the tax topic. One key point. I'm so glad I woke up. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad that you're here too. So clarity and pricing. This is the one point I want to touch on clarity builds confidence. Is when you don't have clarity on your pricing, no matter what your pricing is, you could be a low start, high start, middle of the road start, doesn't matter. When you don't have clarity, that results in unplanned and nervous discounting. How many of you have been in a show and you're showing a high value item and you're asking a good penny for it because you feel it's worth a good penny? Maybe it's a $50 item and you're like, hey, starting bid is $50. How many of you are super comfortable? Or how many of you get that nervous discount feeling in your belly and you're like, you know what, I'll drop that down to 40. Okay, if you have clarity and confidence in your pricing, that nervousness, that need to feel I better discount or nobody's going to buy it, goes away. You're confident in your pricing, no matter what the pricing structure is that you set up. You strategically have set your pricing, and there's no apologizing for your prices. How many of you have held something up and said, "I'm sorry, this is all high, but I paid a lot for it"? No, that goes away when you're confident. When you have clarity in your pricing, you don't need to apologize for it. And that confidence shows in your voice, your pace, and your authority. You can easily say, hey, here's this item, whatever it may be, and if it's truly, worth that, starting price is $50, and you just keep talking about your item, how wonderful it is, and you're not like, oh, it's $50, I'm so sorry. And it's hard. It's hard. We want people to like us. We innately, we want people to like us. And how do we get people to like us? Giving them a deal, being friendly, like, oh, well, let's do something special for each other, right? That's not a CEO mindset. That's a reseller mindset. That's a human, nature mindset. It's a lack of confidence mindset. So, and this is something that I've struggled with a lot. It's part of the reason I love Dollar Starts, because it takes all of that away instantly. But it's something that we all, I'm not gonna say we all, but a lot of people will struggle with, and that it's an area that is very difficult to confidently ask for the price that you want to sell it for, and not just discount out of nervousness. So that's really what I wanted to focus on the clarity side. So with that in mind, let me see if there's any questions. The balance between business and social, absolutely. I struggle with the social side. Admittedly, I struggle with the social side. Hi, Aaron. I didn't see you come in. Aaron says it's not up to us to spend other people's money. It's the money you want. Exactly. It's not up to us. If they want to buy it, they will. And you know what proof of this is? I do mainly dollars. I do all Dollar Starts on my vintage items, except for my reverse auctions. Do Dollar Starts get a little more bids? Yeah, there's this whole psychological impact on that. But when somebody wants one of my reverse auction items that do not start at $1, they start high and work their way down to a set floor, a set bottom that I am not willing to go below, they still sell. Things still sell. So you don't have to do just Dollar Starts to make things sell. There's a reason why you may want to use Dollar Starts. But again, I go back to look at it as a CEO. How does that fit into your overall business strategy? I have learned that my budget is not my customer's budget. Many are willing to spend way more than I am. 100%. 100%. Here's another good example, y'all. Noon, every day at noon for probably the next 15 days or so. I'm not sure exactly how many. I Love Discounts is selling glass. They sell 5 pieces of glass a day at around noon. They are not asking Dollar Starts. They are asking the price that they feel the item is worth. It's great deals. You're still getting awesome deals. I'll tell you reverse auction in just a second. But they're selling, I bought a piece of glass from them for $100 the other day. And Lysandra confidently sat there and said, look at this beautiful base. It's a Murano. It's made by here, does this. Look at the colors. Look at the size. And she described the base and said, it's listed now for $100. It's okay. So while there's benefits on both sides, my key point here is to be confident in whatever strategy you pick, and pick strategies, and it can be a mix. It doesn't have to be one all or nothing that work for your business. So you reverse auction. I think my next one's in a few weeks, is when we start at a high price. So I'll say, here's an item. We're going to start at $80 and I'll start to count backwards. I'll say 78, 72, 65 to a floor that I've determined. I don't tell you what the floor is, but there's a bottom that I won't go. When the chat hears the price that they want to start at, that's where I run the auction at. So if somebody says run at 65, I will start running it at 65, at which point it's open for everybody to bid.
Gems with
that's
gems, gems with gems. You can also check out the YouTube channel and look at the previous shows. I'm gonna put it on the screen.
Kelly says, how do you feel about stating the MSRP? I don't like it. My personal opinion is it does not matter what it sells for on any other site. I don't care what the MSRP is. I don't care what people pay for it on eBay. This is Whatnot. It has its own market. And every item is only worth what the buyers in the room are willing to pay for it. So to me, MSRP is a useless number. Now, I do feel that there are some rare and collectible items that are unique enough that most people may not know the value. And as a seller, I may have to do some education. Whereas in those instances, I tried to say, I've priced this well below other comps to kind of relay the message that, hey, you're getting a great deal. Or, hey, take a picture of this. If you're interested, this is a really unique item. You may want to go check this out on your own, and I'm going to run it for $1. But I don't like stating it. I think, honestly, I'm going to be totally truthful here. I'm sorry if I'm offending somebody. Throwing out prices of MSRP, eBay comps, I think it's tacky. I don't think it's necessary. That's my opinion. Okay, let's move into our tax topics now. So we're going to cover 5 tax points. It's going to be a little quicker. We're probably going to end around 9 o'clock Eastern time. So, all right. First tax topic, and if you guys have any tax questions, feel free, keep putting them in the chat. I'll be happy to talk about it. But we're really going to talk about the main tax topic today is business versus hobby income and why mindset matters. So we talked a lot last week about the intent. Basically, if you're operating with intent, you're operating as a business. But I want to really hit on the key points. I spent a lot of time on the IRS website, and I just did word for word. What exactly does the IRS have to say about this versus putting it, like rewriting it into other words? So I have some examples, but we're going to move through these kind of quickly. Let me do another giveaway really quick here. Okay. Hobby income is taxed, but deductions are limited. So when we're talking the difference between a hobby and a business, okay, a lot of people start Whatnot and they're like, oh, it's not a real business. I'll just do this on the side. I do a hobby. You'll even hear other talk show hosts saying, well, if you're just doing this as a hobby, okay, they're not tax people. That's fine. But I'm encouraging all of you to really understand the difference between a hobby and a business, because it's not what you think. It's not like, oh, I'm going to call this a hobby, so it's a hobby. No, at the end of the day, it's what the IRS says. So hobby income is taxed. It's taxable just like your business income is taxable, okay? Got to pay the tax on it regardless. However, you don't get to deduct your expenses when you're a hobby. So, well, first off, why would you want to be a hobby if you can't deduct your expenses? Hobby income is not reported on a Schedule C. And I just need to clarify, I'm talking mainly about sole proprietors, not S corps or corporated businesses. This is sole proprietors or single member LLCs at this point is kind of my focus. So your hobby income is reported on your tax return on your 1040. It's not reported on your Schedule C. Why? Because you can't take any of those business expenses. You have zero. All those shipping supplies you paid, your home office, all those miles you drove, none of that's deductible if it's a hobby, but you still get taxed on it. So you really need to understand what the difference is between the two to make sure that you're operating in a manner, in a CEO mindset as a business. No dumb questions. Dumb quick question, but the tips we get here, are they part of the no tax tips for the IRS purposes? That is a really good question. That is not a dumb question at all. I'm going to look that up on tips. I am going to say my gut feeling is no, they are not included in that, because that was intentionally written for like waitresses, servers, like service industry. However, I will find that out, and I promise to talk about it on Monday and next Friday. So if you guys can't catch, if you miss one show, you'll hear the other show, or you can always watch on YouTube. Southern Charm, I will also just message you and answer directly on that. But I will talk. I will look it up exactly what the IRS has to say and come back and tell you guys. Great question though, because that is a new thing for this year. So a lot of people are going to be asking that. Um, so think about hobby versus business. If you make $10,000 and you call it a hobby, guess what? You get to pay tax on $10,000. If you make $10,000 in your business, you may have enough expenses where you're only paying tax on $200 or $300 versus 10,000. It makes a huge difference. Um, we are serving up vintage. I love that. All right. Um, a business mindset allows legitimate expense deductions. So having that CEO, that business mindset, treating it like a business allows you to have all of those deductions, which is opposite of a hobby. So if you make 10K, it took you 6K to make 10K, you're only going to pay tax on 4, right? So we want to really understand this. However, on the flip side, is there a minimum yearly profit needed to deem it as a legitimate business versus a hobby? There is not. There is not. And this is, I was going to talk about it later, but you will hear a lot of people mistakenly refer to a 3-year rule. Is my bubble tech. I'm going to go over to my notes because I actually took some notes on the 3-year rule. You will hear a lot of people say, well, if you make a profit 3 years out of 5, or there is no such thing as a 3-year rule when it comes to hobby versus business. None. It is taken so far out of context. There is a 3-year rule. I will tell you what that rule is, but people use it completely out of context. So when you hear sellers say, well, if you make a profit 3 out of 5 years, you're a business. It's not. Yes and no. So when you're looking at hobby versus business, the IRS, you're trying to prove that you're a business more so than a hobby, right? The IRS uses that 3-year rule to prove that you're a hobby, not a business. They use it in the opposite context. It's not are you a business? It's, are you a hobby? I'm going to disallow all those expenses you took. It's not what makes you a business. It's what helps classify you as a hobby. So if you say have filed 5 years of tax returns, and you're saying you're a business, and the IRS comes back, and if you're a business, what are you doing? You're deducting all these expenses, right? Well, that's what we're talking about. One of the beauty parts of being a business is deducting these expenses. Common Elements, you got that giveaway. Congratulations. Good morning, Old Menu Creations.
Congratulations.
Well, if say you get audited and you've been in this business for 5 years, you've been deducting all these expenses, and the IRS is going to come in, they're going to look at this and they're going to say, all right, I'm going to go down this checklist. We're going to talk about the checklist in a little bit, and I'm going to determine if you're a business or a hobby. One of the things you're going to look at is if you made any profit whatsoever in the 3 years, it automatically excludes you. They're going to say, let's see, if you made profit in 3 of the last years, are they're using it to try to prove that you're a hobby, not a business. So if you didn't make any profit, but you're claiming all these business expenses, the IRS will question if you're a hobby, therefore questioning if you can expense all of these deductions. So it's not a thing about hobby versus business on the front end. It's more on the back end through the IRS. The key point is whenever somebody says it, ignore it because it's completely inaccurate. We're going to go through exactly what the IRS says makes you a hobby or a business. And it's not black and white. It's a big old gray area that judgment is used in, and everybody applies judgment in a different manner. Okay, so we talked about business mindset allows legitimate expense deductions. Now, the hard part about this, the flip side, the side that catches, everything, there's a good and bad to everything. If you're a hobby, you get taxed on the income, but you don't get expenses, right? Well, if you're a business, you get those expenses, but guess what? You also have to pay self-employment tax. So not only are you paying your federal employment tax, but now you have 15.3% of self-employment tax you have to pay too. So the IRS is going to say, sure, You're a business. You can deduct all those expenses, but we're going to tax you a little bit extra because you're a business. So there's a good and bad to both sides, whether you're a hobby or a business. Have a great day, Extending Grace. So when we talk about business expenses, what are those in the terms of the in the eyes of the IRS? Okay. The IRS, these are the exact words they use. Your business, cost of operating your business has to be ordinary and necessary. Those are the two key words. And this is directly from the IRS publications. They describe in a business expense is the cost of operating your business that's ordinary and necessary. So what does ordinary mean? Ordinary means common and accepted in the field of your business. So for us, having a Vendoo subscription is ordinary. That would be an ordinary business expense for a reseller is to have a Vendoo. Probably if you're running a manufacturing company or you're running, let's say, an auto shop, and you use Vendoo, I would be questioning on why you have Vendoo for an auto shop, right? That's not ordinary expense. So you'll hear some people say, oh, well, there's all these special things that resellers can take. No, there's not. There's nothing special. It depends what is ordinary in your business or your line of business. So that's ordinary. Necessary, that's the other side of it. It has to be ordinary and necessary. The IRS says necessary is an expense that is helpful and appropriate for your business. Helpful and appropriate. This is something, let me give this example. We show our hands all the time. I got beautifully done nails. That is not a business expense. It is not a business expense. One, it is not ordinary, and it is not necessary. It is not necessary by any means to have pretty nails to sell on Whatnot. So does it make your hands look better on camera? Absolutely. Is it necessary? Not at all. This is where that gray area comes. Taxes aren't just black and white. There's a lot of this gray, I got to figure this out. And you're going to hear tax advisors and CPAs, some are very, very risk-taking, and they'll be like, yeah, put your fake nails on there. It's okay. And you're going to hear others saying, nah, the IRS says necessary. This does not fit into necessary. I tend to be on the very extreme side of I am going by what the IRS actually says. Yes, ChatGPT subscription could be deductible. I would say yes. I would say that fits into an ordinary expense. We use it as part of the creativity process in our business, and it could be necessary in helping us develop thumbnails. I think we can easily defend a ChatGPT subscription as an ordinary necessary expense in this business. A lot of what we do relies on creativity. A monster mama, congratulations. So now my husband said he doesn't think ChatGPT would be an ordinary necessary business expense, but I'm the CPA and I say yes. So take that, honey. I love you though. All right. Let's talk about not all expenses, because we're talking business expense here. Canva, absolutely 100%. Not all expenses represent an actual outflow of cash. This is a key tax concept. Not all expenses actually represent me handing cash to somebody else, okay? I wrote down 4 quick examples. I have a paid subscription that I use for business. Anything personal I do on the free through my browser. And that's fine. You can even use the paid one for some personal, long as the majority and the real purpose of it is business. It's just like if back before cell phones and you actually worked in offices and you had to call your house to check on your kid and you would use the work phone. It's a personal call, but it was still okay because it wasn't the majority of the use. I have Canva for both my real estate business and my Whatnot business. Do I divide them by percentages on my Schedule C? So, Marsha, what I would do there as your CPA is I would look at the income and the expenses on both businesses, and I would allocate that expense to the business that needs it the most. That's how I would do it. Or you could be very, very conservative and divide it in half, like you said. That there's no hard and set rule there. Or you can look at Canva and say, I use it mostly for this business, so I'm going to put the expense there. As long as you're consistent in the application is what matters more than the actual division. But inventory, shipping supplies, cost of shipping, receiving items would all be deductible. Correct. Inventory is not deductible until you sell it, but yes, everything you listed 100% deductible. Some of the stuff that's an expense that you might not think of because you're not actually paying for it would be bad debts. If somebody owes you money and they never pay you back, that's an expense to you. Mileage. I know we talk about mileage a lot, but we're not driving our car. We're not driving our car and like writing ourselves a check for that use of that car all the time, right? But at the end of the year, we can claim all that mileage. If you use your phone to film shows, can you absolutely, you can deduct your phone. I would come up with a legitimate business expense. If you don't have a phone that's just a business phone, if it's shared, personal and business, you need to come up with an allocation. Is it 50% business, 50% personal, 80-20? Figure out what it is, justify it. I would actually write it down how you came to that justification, just in case you're ever audited. You can confidently say, this is how I came up with the 80-20 or the 50-50. Yeah, maybe you could base it by how many average hours that you're live, just your average use time. Come up with some legitimate way to justify how you're splitting business for personal. There's no rule to tell you how to do it. Inventories that is donated or thrown away becomes an expense, Crystals. 100%. Yep, you're correct. The other thing, depreciation. We don't think about depreciation. Depreciation is when you buy something, an asset that has a life expected longer than longer than a year. You take a little piece of that. So this is higher cost equipment. If you're spending $2,000 on a really high-end computer or $3,000, which probably isn't even high-end anymore, you don't take that full $3,000 in 1 year. You can spread it over the life of that, which is usually like 3 to 5 years, and you get a little bit of that expense each year. That can help reduce income over a longer period of time. What that does is matches up your use to the expense to the actual use. But that's not a cash outlay, but that's something that's going to help reduce your income. And your home office, we've talked about that a lot. Your home office isn't something you're technically like writing a check for, but it also helps reduce that income. Stolen inventory, yes, that is stolen inventory. I'm sorry that you had inventory stolen, because usually questions like that come from a personal place. But yes, that would be an expense to you. You can write that off as an expense on your business. I have never spent more than $200 on a computer. There goes my OPS aspirations. Whatnot's portion, yes, the fees are absolutely deductible. So Kelly, you make a good point. When you get your 1099 at the end of the month, it's going to be gross. You then deduct the fees. So absolutely 100%. Let's talk about things you cannot deduct really quick, because we're hitting on a lot that you can, but I just want to hit on a few that under no circumstances is this allowed. And this list I copied straight from the IRS. Car, and when we sell it, do we repurpose, recapture? No, you do not recapture. Classic Creations, congratulations on that giveaway.
Congratulations.
For your vehicle, Moody, there's two different ways, and I'm not going to go into them today, but there's two different ways to claim your vehicle expense. If you're doing actual expense, some depreciation, if it's fully a business per business vehicle, can be there. You don't recapture it, but it reduces the amount, so you take a bigger earnings at the end. So if you sell it for a gain, you'll have a larger gain because of that depreciation. Okay, what can you not deduct under any circumstances? This is not allowed, okay? Not allowed. Any bribes or kickbacks. If I'm going to pay somebody, and usually bribes and kickbacks relate to politics, to political parties, but bribes are a kickback too. If I'm paying somebody to raid into me, I'm bribing them. First of all, it's illegal and whatnot against terms of service. It's also not something you can deduct on your IRS tax return. Charitable contributions. You guys might be going, oh, wait a minute. I donated a bunch of my crap. You cannot put charitable contributions on your Schedule C. Only personal taxes. That's right. I love discounts. Charitable contributions goes on your Schedule A personal tax return. If you do not itemize, your charitable contributions are extremely limited, if not gone away completely. Please, before you just start giving away a bunch of your business stuff, look into the tax implications. You may be better off having a dollar show to get rid of stuff versus giving it away. You may be. You have to evaluate it. Um, people say to do it all the time, and you can't. It's a way to get rid of inventory that's not serving you any purpose. I'm not against it, but when it comes to taxes, it's not a business expense, not at all. Are giveaways and sponsored chats considered marketing? Yes, they are. Marcia, yes, they are. Those are definitely marketing expenses, advertising expense. Opinion on percent. Do you hold back from each show for taxes? Luna, that really depends on a lot of the circumstances. And there's really kind of two different ways on what I would recommend. If you also work and have a W 2 job, you could hold back a little bit less. If you don't, if whatnot's your full income, you should be holding back about 30%. I do have an estimated tax PDF that I go through actual examples and give recommended percentages. If you're interested, that's in the bin. The other thing, you cannot deduct your dues to social or athletic clubs. Do not let anybody tell you, go buy season tickets for your favorite football team and you can make it a business expense. They're liars. Flat out. They are lying to you. It is not deductible. Okay? Don't do it. Along with entertainment expenses. Okay? Not deductible. Lobbying, if you're paying any political people, not deductible. So every few years when people start to lobby, can't deduct that. Personal living and family expenses. This is the other one that gets people in trouble. We had a business meeting. Oh wait, hold on. Let's see. I was thinking if you purchase, okay, but we had a business meeting there, so oh, in Aruba, probably with I Love Discounts, right? Need to get with you. Okay. Personal living and family expenses. I know I have heard somebody firsthand, another pretty popular chat show person, who says, well, I just take my family on vacation with me, then it's all deductible. Good luck with that. You explain that one to the IRS when you get audited. Your family expenses are not deductible. Your family expenses are personal expenses. I thought that you could deduct entertainment expenses. They've changed entertainment expenses. You guys, I need to plug in my computer. Hold that thought. Hold on. I gotta put my plug in. I gotta find a plug. Where's the plug? We're about to die here. All right. There we go. They changed entertainment expenses a few years back. Now there is some very minor exceptions, and when you can and when it fits in the exception, it's limited to 50%.
Yes,
I
Southern
am
Charm,
fired.
she's
I wasn't
fired.
prepared. I am fired. I was not prepared with the charger. I did not plan my show appropriately. Let's see. Sounds like I need to keep all the receipts and better organized. Absolutely. That is the key. That's the key. Keep the receipts. Stay up with your accounting. But what I really want to hit on is a lot of people say, oh, you can make a sourcing trip. You can go wherever and just take your family and make it a vacation. Let's go sourcing in Orlando. Ranch Hand Finds, congratulations. You got that giveaway. So I live in Pennsylvania. I would love to go sourcing down in Orlando, right? Take my kid, take my husband, write it all off. Oh, hubby hasn't been fired this show. He hasn't. I know he's on top of things this time. You can write off the portion of that sourcing trip that's related to you. Now, how do you make it exactly not necessary? Thank you so much. How do you make it so that your family can be part of this? If I'm renting a hotel room that has 2 beds, it's going to be the same cost whether it's just me or me and my kid and my husband sleeping in that room. So now my hotel's deductible, my family's there. However, when we go out to a restaurant and eat, only my portion is deductible as the meal for that, not my kid. What if we hold a meeting at the Epcot Center? Now, you could, if you really want to pay for that, there is a way to make certain things. There's a way, legitimate ways. I hate calling them loopholes because they're not loopholes. They're legitimate strategies to make things deductible. But in general, if somebody tells you you can go on vacation and take your family, they're not 100% correct. Hubs and I are both Whatnot host Should we have two separate businesses? Absolutely not. If unless you guys are doing two separate businesses, you can do two Schedule Cs. But then you're dividing income. If you're doing the same one, like a Monster Mom, it's really your account or you're combined together. Like me and my husband, we do Zoe's Treasures. It's on one Schedule C. But if your husband's kind of doing something completely different, um, I would argue to say if you're both on Whatnot, you're probably both resellers and can operate under one business. That would be almost no different than me selling vintage and me selling jewelry. Yeah. Um, Luna says, Whatnot meetups are business trips. Absolutely, 100% they're business trips because that's a networking trip. And probably sourcing too. So those were the things the IRS absolutely says, do not deduct these. And the one where a lot of people gets in trouble is those family expenses, the personal living, because there's just so much misinformation of people telling you that this is okay. So that was a big one I wanted to point out. Yeah, it's like exactly. It's like two Monster Moms, like two divisions. It's like under Zoe's Treasures, I have jewelry and I have vintage. It's still Zoe's Treasures. So if you're operating under one umbrella, I would put it on one Schedule C. It's probably more advantageous to do it on one Schedule C because you're lumping all the expense and income together, versus trying to separate it all out. Can you do all of this on your? It is your personal taxes. So Kelly, and for anybody else who may be a little bit new to this or just doesn't know, if you are just you're a sole proprietor. You haven't incorporated. It's you. You've picked up a phone and you're in business. It goes on a Schedule C, which is attached to your 1040s. Your 1040s, your personal return. Your business part of that all gets reported on a Schedule C. Now, if you've fallen for that, everybody says I need an LLC, and you have gone and created an LLC, and it's just you as a single member or you and your spouse, guess what? You still file a Schedule C. There's no additional tax benefit to you. This is one of my big gripes about people telling you to get an LLC. So yes, it is on your personal. He has his own account here with it. That's still okay, Monster Mama. I would still say that was okay. Without knowing like every single little detail from what you've told me, I would still do it on one. But again, there's probably a lot more information there that needs to be evaluated. I just started and I'm doing shows with my college age daughter. Our account is under my name and I work full time. Should I change it to my daughter? It doesn't really matter. However, you may want to get with a tax advisor. She's allowed to make so much income a year that would be tax free. So you may want to look at that if that's more advantageous. However, you probably have more tax deductions. And if you're claiming her on your return, then her having her own income then moves her to her own return. So there's a lot of ways that can go. I would get with a tax advisor and figure out the best way. Since it's your account, it's your tax number hooked to that account, all income is going to be reported to you currently. So I would ask if I were your CPA, I would ask what year of school she's in. Does she have any other income? What are her plans after college? Does she live in your home? Do you claim her on your return? Do you not? So there's a lot of variables in order to figure out the best way on your question. Let's see. Okay, is a legal benefit, not a tax benefit. An LLC, absolutely. An LLC, Gems, you got that giveaway. Congratulations. An LLC is a legal structure.
Congratulations.
It is not a tax. I mean, there's nothing special about it for taxes. Okay. Third point. Profit intent is the key. Last week we talked a ton about intent. Intent really is the main thing that the IRS is going to look at to determine if you're a hobby or a business. Even if your profit isn't immediate, this is where I go back to that 3-year rule. Ignore it. So the IRS says, listen, this is exactly what the IRS says. They say a hobby is an activity that a person pursues because they enjoy it and with no intention of making a profit. That's a hobby. So when you come on Whatnot, just day one, you got here probably because you were a buyer and you're like, oh, I can make some money selling all this stuff I bought. Just that statement alone shows that you have a profit motive, a profit intent. Or you saw one of the popular people on Facebook or TikTok or Instagram making money, and you thought, that looks pretty easy. That looks pretty cool. That looks like fun. I can do that and make money. You already have just made a business decision based on an intent to make money, to make profit. So right from the beginning, you're probably already a business. um, what not bribe comment you mentioned? Sorry, phone ring. Oh, if you bribe anybody, normally the IRS bribes is kind of written more for like a political thing, like in certain countries when you bribe somebody, and as an American, you can't deduct that. However, if you're bribing somebody on whatnot, it's the same thing. One, it's against terms of service. I'm going to pay you $20 if you raid into me. That's a bribe. Um, it's against terms of service, and also you can't deduct it on your taxes. So don't do it. Like, and why? Let's see. My estate sale business is an LLC. I'm starting to sell on Whatnot this year. Can I set that up as a sole proprietorship, and I will need to do two Schedule Cs? Correct. Now, um, your estate sale business, depending on what it does, you could establish your Whatnot business as just an arm of that and put everything under one. Or if it's really two different businesses, and me not knowing all the details, if it's really two different businesses, you're absolutely correct. You just file two Schedule Cs, one for each business. Um, what if I'm tipping my mailman? That's kind of a non-bribe kickback. That's a gift. That's not deductible. That's just you out of the kindness of your heart saying, I appreciate what you're doing for me. It's not necessary. It's not ordinary or necessary. So again, go back to the IRS definition of a business expense on whether it's deductible. Is it ordinary and is it necessary? I assume Whatnot asked for social security number. Does it matter if it's mine or my husband's social security? It does not matter. Just that's just who the 1099 is going to be issued to. So if you guys are filing a joint return, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's all going on the same return. Now, if for some reason you're married and you're filing separate returns, there's probably a lot of other reasons why you're doing that. Then it would probably matter more, and you would need to think that through. Real quick, what does intent look like? We just talked about really quick, a very easy example. But if you're planning your show, you're planning your timing, you're setting goals, you're sourcing, you're creating systems, you're doing all these wonderful CEO mindset things, you're consistent, you're evaluating, you're monitoring, that's all intent. And we talked a ton about intent last week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time. It is on YouTube if you want to go watch that one. But bottom line, intent is proven by your behaviors. Is there a way? Let's see. Is there a way to break down or report and whatnot the separate marketing from sourcing? That separates marketing from sourcing. I do not think there is, Crafty Fairies. Whatnot has a fairly okay ledger and accounting back side of it. There's a lot of room for improvement, but I don't think there's a way to separate that. That would be more of something you're going to need to monitor yourself, either through some type of software or like an Excel sheet or something. If I use a online filing service, does it decide if I'm a hobby or a business? You choose. Only new creations, you need to choose it. And you choose it with the knowledge of what the IRS says. They may ask you some of those questions to help decide. But it's pretty much how you're going to answer and what you choose. Will this show? It is on YouTube. We always stream to YouTube. Amy's Treasures, congratulations. All right, we're going to go for probably another 10 or so minutes. We're going to do one more giveaway, and I'm going to wrap up our points here. I only have 2 more points. So yes, absolutely, you can always watch this on YouTube. Okay, so intent is proven by behavior. Let's talk about another hobby versus business mindset: consistency and planning. Consistency and planning support. They all support your business classification. So we talked last week, it was the same thing: intent, consistency, planned behaviors, deliberate. When you're setting up systems that help your business operate effectively, this all shows your consistency. It just lends itself to them saying you are a business. So when you respond to results you are managing, you're not passively participating. So I want to make a key point here about what is considered passive or active income, because you'll hear this term particularly in reselling. Oh, I listed it online. I'm passively making income in my sleep. That's not the meaning of passive versus active income according to the IRS. Active income is what we are doing. We're actively participating in a business. We're spending time, we're applying our CEO mindset, we're doing what we need to do to make money. We are actively engaged in the business. Passive income is when you're not actively engaged. Passive income is when you buy stock and it sits there and your broker sells it for you and now you made money. But did you really do something? Were you actively involved in that? No, you weren't. Passive income is when you take a lump sum of money and you invest it into real estate and then you get a K1. That's passive income. If you're not actively engaged in that business, that's passive. You don't make passive income from your listed items because you had to take the picture, you had to buy it, you had to source it, clean it, photograph it, list it, monitor the listings. That's all active engagement. So it's just something I've heard, and I wanted to make a key point on the difference between passive and active income because those two terms are tied into businesses quite frequently. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to give you the 9 factors that the IRS uses. This is what they look at when if you're ever audited or if they're questioning you, or what you can use to determine if you're a hobby or a business. All of you by this point pretty much know you're a business. But if there's any question about it, here's actually what the IRS says. And take note that nowhere in here does it say anything about a 3-year rule. I gotta harp on that because it's just the biggest thing I hear of misinformation out there. We have a question really quick. If hubbies, oh, I read that one. Okay, good. All right. So what, and this is word for word. Copied this directly word for word from the IRS. Oh, I did not read that. Okay. If hubbies is used for whatnot and I reach retirement age, I would not have quarters paid in. So we should pay me a salary. You can pay you a salary. However, that gets a little more complicated if you're looking at like social security income. That would be one of the ones that you would really need to look at the full picture. What's your husband's income? What's your income before retirement age? What are your goals? What other type of retirement income do you have? Where are you already at in the social security system? So it's not something I can answer here. It's definitely a consideration, but you would have to look at all these other variables first. And this is why you guys I recommend. I'm going to tell you what the IRS says. I'm going to give you general information so you have the basis there to go and talk to a CPA, a tax advisor. And you know what? There's a lot of people. If you're like, look, CPAs, I think they're expensive. There's a lot of people at H&R Block. CPAs work at H&R Block. Not all of them, but they do have a special section of CPAs. They can act as an advisor to you. A monster mama. That is my plan. If I ever decide to leave my full-time job, I would open up services as a CPA. Right now, unfortunately, I cannot because I'm under a contract with a accounting firm. This is as much as I can do is talk about it. All right, the 9 things the IRS is going to look at to determine hobby versus business. These are also all in the PDF that I have for sale if you're interested in that. So the first one, whether the taxpayer carries out the activity in a business-like manner and maintains complete and accurate books and records. So, and this isn't an all or nothing. This is a judgment. Okay. So this isn't like, oh, check the box, yes or no. I can sell them on whatnot. Are you talking like tax services? No, I couldn't sell them on whatnot, but I could use whatnot as a way to advertise and have a tax business on the side. Who got that last giveaway of the day? Kelly got that. Congratulations. Okay. So whether the taxpayer carries out the activity in a business-like manner and maintains books and records, you can't say, oh, well, I don't maintain books and records, so I'm not a business. This isn't like this black and white thing. You really got to look at this in the entirety, okay? That's the first thing the IRS is going to look at. Number 2, whether the time and effort the taxpayer puts into the activities shows they intend to make a profit. 2 weeks we've been harping on intent. Here it is, just said in a different way by the IRS. Number 3, whether the taxpayer, whether the taxpayer depends on the income from the activity for their livelihood. So you're like, well, why would you not depend on this money? In my instance, I work full time. I make enough of a salary to pay my bills. Whatnot doesn't pay my bills. So for me, this one, the IRS would look and say, well, she doesn't really depend on this for her income. But then they might look at all the other questions and say, yeah, but look at all the rest of this stuff. In the entirety, you're a business. Okay. Number 4, whether any, hold on, I can't read my writing. Oh, whether any losses are due to circumstances beyond the taxpayer's control, or are they normal for the startup phase of their type of business? Was this haphazard or was this planned? That's really basically what this says. Was this a haphazard occurrence or was this something that was planned? Okay. Number 5, whether the taxpayer changes methods of operation to improve profitability. How would you change methods of operation? I did a show, it didn't go well, so now I'm doing the show in a different way. That's changing your method of operation. I started with women's clothes, it didn't work out. Now I'm going to sell vintage. It's changing your method of operation. Better record keeping, absolutely. I never wrote down my mileage, and now I'm writing down my mileage because I want to deduct it. I have intent, I have actions, I'm acting like a business. Okay. Number 6, whether the taxpayer and their advisors have the knowledge needed to carry out the activity as a successful business. Again, we're looking at this in the entirety. If I wanted to go and open up an auto shop, I have zero knowledge, zero skill, zero advisors that can show me how to run it or to repair a car as a profitable business. That may be a hobby. That is me tinkering around, learning how to, fix an engine. That's a hobby. But whatnot? Maybe I don't know everything about reselling, but I know enough about business to make this successful. It doesn't take a lot. What we're doing isn't a specialized skill. You're going to be hard pressed to convince the IRS that you don't have the skill to run a whatnot show. Very hard pressed to get out of that one. Okay. Number 7, whether the taxpayer was successful in making a profit from similar activities in the past. Is this the first time you're doing this? Have you proven success before? You know this business model works. Now you're doing it again, and you're going to try to tell me you're a hobby? Don't know about that. Maybe this is your first time doing it. And so that's what I'm saying. This isn't an all or nothing or a check the box. Okay. I sold flip flops on eBay for years, long time ago. I know as a reseller, I can make money making this. I've had a similar business in the past. In my mind and hobby costs money. A business makes money. There you go, Daisy Lane. I love the way that you put that. A hobby costs money. A business makes money, or it's attempting to. That's right. Could you share your email over DM with us to send you a? Oh, sorry, that's you. I'm not reading the names. I'm just looking at the question. Okay. So that was makes a profit in number 8, whether the activity makes a profit in some years and how much profit it makes. This is where people start to get confused about, if you make a profit, your business thing. It's because of this one here. Whether the activity makes a profit in some years and how much profit it makes. If your hobby, say that your hobby is crocheting and you do really great, and one day you're at the library crocheting and somebody's like, oh, that's such a gorgeous blanket. I would love to buy that from you. And you're like, okay, sure, I'll sell it to you $100, and you made some money. But that's it. And this isn't a consistent thing. So one year you showed a little bit of profit, but every other year you didn't. It kind of looks at the whole entirety. What's that substance? What's really occurring? What's really happening? Finally, the last thing the IRS is going to look at in a hobby versus business determination, whether the taxpayer can expect to make a future profit from the appreciation of the assets used in the activity. That's a lot of words. Basically, what's your inventory? Inventory is an asset. Do you expect to make a profit from your inventory? All right, there you go. Done. So, what are the assets you have in your business? Can they be used, the appreciation of those assets, used to make profit? So, that was very technical, that last part, but I wanted to really read word for word what the IRS says and not just paraphrase stuff. Um, oh, thank you so much, Monster Mama. So, um, this is in a PDF if it's something you're concerned about, but I can almost guarantee that every single one of you, the minute you hit go live on your phone, became a business. And it's probably more beneficial to say it's a business than it is a hobby for the deductibility reasons. Um, so with that, we are going to wrap up for the day. Thank you so much for the tip. That's so sweet of you. We are going to wrap up for today. I'm trying to keep these shows at around 2 hours. We've been hitting about 2 hours, 15 minutes, so that's not so bad. But with that, we're going to go raid somebody. You guys have a great day. This is on YouTube if you ever want to go back and watch it. So if you missed something, and with that, y'all
Don't
have a
forget
really good weekend.
to share your excuse me, your email addresses if you purchase anything from the PDFs or the Excel spreadsheets. Send us a DM with your email address. That way we can send it to you as soon as possible.
Absolutely. All right. I do not know who is on. Let's go see who we can find. Green 13 is on. Let's go raid Green 13. Thank you so much. Sam Fines. Thank you. Thank you.
Honey, what are you doing?
Nothing?